Another person tried to take out Trump. I'm not kidding, guys. This is real. And this is one of the photos. Moments before, this assailant was actually arrested by local PD in Florida. This is crazy, guys. But what's even more interesting is what his son says about his dad. We got to talk about this. What's up, y'all? As you guys already know, a man tried to take out Trump again while Trump was leisurely enjoying a round of golf. I'm not kidding. A guy went on the outskirts, the fenced, bushy area of this golf course. He pulled out an AK. He tried to pull the trigger, but luckily for Trump, actually, Secret Service caught an eye, got a glimpse of this guy, and opened fire at him. He ran off, he jumped into his car, and they were able to catch him miles down the road, okay, away from this actual golf course. Trump is okay. But now we're starting to understand a little bit more information about this person and if he's radicalized or not, so on and so forth. What is this? Who is this guy? And one question that still hasn't been answered, and I'm hoping will get answered very soon, is did he operate alone? Did he do this all by himself? Real talk. I think we all want to know about that too, because how would he know Trump was golfing at that particular golf course at that particular time? Was it just by happenstance that he was just there with his AK, a GoPro, and a couple ceramic tiles for protection? I don't know. It seems a bit odd, and it makes me wonder if there was maybe somebody on the inside that let this guy know about Trump's whereabouts at that moment. But I digress, okay? But we are understanding that this man's name is Ryan Wesley Routh or Ruth, however you pronounce it. I'm sure we'll get the right pronunciation here very soon. But this is the man right here. And of course, you see him, his hair half white, half blue, he with the bulletproof vest, cosplaying as if he's John Rambo out here, okay? This is a very interesting situation, okay? Because the guy, from my understanding, is just cosplaying as military. He's just cosplaying as a badass, okay? Because if you really know, allegedly he didn't even pull the trigger on the actual weapon that he had with him, the AK-47 that he actually had. So it does make you wonder, for somebody who has no military experience, that he claims in videos and whatnot, was he prepared? Okay, did he really know? Was he really going to do something, or was he just trying to give Trump a scare? I don't know. It just seems a bit odd. You do all of that and nothing happens. But thank God nothing happened nonetheless. But still, it does make you wonder about who this guy is and what this story is all about, right? What is his story, and how does it all come down to this, right? But there is something that's interesting. His son has spoken out, and I think this is very interesting. He's alleged, right, that his dad, okay, doesn't like Trump, okay, and he even says, like all quote unquote all reasonable people, but he's never owned a pew, and he wouldn't do anything bat-ish crazy. This is very interesting, and we got to take a look at this interview or this conversation here, because it's very interesting. So we already know that Ryan Wesley Routh is the one who actually tried to pull the trigger, and allegedly he did not pull the trigger. But he has now been detained, and I'm hoping that he starts to talk, because I know a lot of people are wondering about his connections to the Ukraine, the war in Ukraine, and so on. There's a lot of people that are wondering what's going on here and why he did what he did. Some are actually wondering if maybe he did this because of what Trump said during the debate, because he was hoping for Ukraine's triumph, for their win, to win over from, against Russia. But he didn't really answer certain questions about things pertaining to the actual war itself. And it didn't seem like he was really leaning more towards on the side of pro-Ukraine. And maybe that's one of the reasons that got this particular assailant upset, to do, or at least try to do, something so unthinkable. But I digress, right? We got to get into this article. So let's take a look at this because I think it's very interesting nonetheless, right? So just moving down a little bit because we're just here to read the interview parts here, okay? Oran Routh, okay, is his son's name, is Ryan Routh's son's name, okay? So he said a few things. He said, "This is the first I've heard of it." Okay. And this is what the 35-year-old told this article that I'm reading right now. He says, "Was my father hit or injured?" He said his father hates Trump, as quote unquote every reasonable person does. I don't like Trump either, the son added. But he said his dad is not a violent person and couldn't believe his father would target the president. Here's a photo of Ryan, okay, before the crazy. Let's be real, okay? This is before everything went militarized and blue hair and half white hair, right? Crazy stuff, guys. Okay. And of course, like I said, he had a GoPro. He had 2 book bags filled with ceramic tiles. From my understanding, maybe to use them to protect himself from bullets. I'm assuming. And then, of course, there's the AK-47 laying right there. He dropped it and he ran off. He scurried off. Real talk. He tucked his tail in between his legs and scurried off and ran, leaving everything behind. So it does make you wonder, for someone to do something like this, he didn't really do a good job at all. Okay. He didn't run off with the stuff or anything. He just, like I said, it's pretty wild stuff. But moving on. Okay. Moving on. He says, the son says, he's my dad. And all he's had is a couple traffic tickets, as far as I know. This is what the son said. That's crazy. I know my dad and love my dad, but that's nothing like him. So we already know that former President Trump is okay. He's safe. He wasn't hit with anything or anything of that sort. He was safely escorted away from the actual golf course, and he's going to live to fight and live another day. Okay. Routh said his father, okay, moved to Hawaii a few years back and is living with his longtime girlfriend. He said he didn't know his father was even in Florida to begin with. So he says here, he said he was at the beach, but I thought that he meant the Outer Banks of Hawaii. I didn't ask him for more information because we had a falling out. We've grown apart. He wouldn't explain the nature of their falling out, but still spoke highly of his father. This is the interesting part here. He says he's not a violent person, he said. He's a hard worker and a great dad. He's a great dude, a nice guy, and has worked his whole effing life. Yeah, he has quite the mouth on him, okay? Just so you guys know. And this, of course, again, is Ryan, okay? Photo of him, okay? Very interesting stuff, okay? They asked whether his father owned a weapon or not. He replied, "Not that I know of." Yeah, that makes sense. You don't, if there's a falling out and you're not talking to him very often, I'm sure he's not pulling up and talking about like, "Hey, I just bought a new AK." Probably not, right? And it does take 2 seconds, if you don't have a tainted track record, arrest record. It takes 2 seconds to walk into a shop and buy a weapon. Is like that. All right, we're learning that with the whole situation that happened in Kentucky, right? With that Joseph Couch situation, who is still at large, by the way. He could be anywhere right now. But moving on. I've never known him to own a gun or known him to do anything bad-ish like this, which is also very interesting, right? So he said his father works as a general contractor, which is nice to know because I was wanting to know, who is this guy and what's his story? Building small homes in Hawaii and previously owned a roofing company. He abruptly ended the call saying that he needed to inquire about what actually happened. Okay. Later in a rambling text, he appeared to justify his father's actions. I hate this game every 4 years, and I think we all do. And if my father wants to be a martyr to how broken and disassociated the process has become from the real problems and the practical situations, then that's his choice. I'm not saying that what he's done or what he's about, that's my own rant. That's just my own rant. Being fed up with it all for my entire adult life, he wrote. South Park said it best. Every 4 years, we're forced to choose between a turd sandwich and a giant douche. Wow. Wow, this guy's something else. And it all says effed in the same ways by different degrees, and we're exhausted and embarrassed by it all. The suspect ran from the trees, but was spotted by a witness who snapped the photo of his vehicle. Okay, the black Nissan, from my understanding, is SUV. All right, with a license plate. All right, and of course, the license plate reader was able to capture where he was driving, and then of course they got him. But that's some funny stuff. Okay, just being real. Okay, I mean, let's be real. I understand that, that it's the same cycle every 4 years. We hear, our politicians politic out here in these streets. We hear what they say. Some of them will say what they mean, and some of them will say whatever they can just to get the vote, right? And so I definitely understand where this man is coming from. But very, very interesting and colorful conversation, it looks like, indeed, in this situation. But again, the son is saying that he didn't know that his father was like this, which is interesting. That there's not a violent bone in his body. He would never do something like this. But at the same time, he still did this, right? He didn't pull the trigger, which maybe backs what his son is saying that he's not a violent individual, that he got all the way up to that moment and he couldn't do it. So it does show something about his father that part might be a little bit accurate, but at the same time, the man still went out of his way to buy a pew pew, go all the way out there, get a GoPro to film the whole thing, set up, and try to take a shot at Trump. That's pretty crazy, okay? Pretty crazy indeed. And I've always said this, and I'm going to continue saying it, okay? Doesn't matter what aisle of the political spectrum that you stand on. If you're Democrat or if you're Republican, we have to make sure that we are all taking care of each other, okay? Because we are all one United States. It's not separated states. It's United States of America. That's the thing that matters the most, right? And so when we see somebody like this doing what they did, first off, a quick reminder, we never really know who we know. And just because his son says, oh, he doesn't have a violent bone in his body, he would never do wouldn't do anything like this at all. Well, he did. So surprise, son, your dad is actually kind of violent. Last we checked. So very interesting that his son doesn't really know anything. But at the same time, if you're estranged from your dad and you've been estranged from your dad for a few years, things can change. Okay. Like him dyeing his hair blue and white. Okay. Some things change without you even knowing. So again, we'll see what happens here. It's still a developing case, but as the world turns, and as more information comes out, trust me, we'll be talking about it here. Again, you could sit here and say you know somebody really, really well, but then again, do you really know them? Especially after doing something like this, do you really, really know your dad? The fact that you say that he will not do anything bat-ish crazy like this, but yet he did. So again, something to think about. Just asking the questions. Anyway, guys, that's the video. Comment down below. Let me know what your thoughts are. Where do you stand on this? But I know that there's going to be more information coming out. Okay. But I'm wondering, did he work alone? That's the thing. And hopefully we get that answer very, very soon. And also, why did he do this? Is it just because he didn't like Trump? Because it feels like he has a problem with politicians in general. Was Trump the only one on the docket? Or were there others? I know that he has support, or he supports the Democrat side, but at the same time, I'm wondering, is there more to this? And were there other people on a list? I guess only time will tell. Anyway, guys, that's the video. Comment down below. Let me know what your thoughts are. Hit that like button down below. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. And if you're watching on other platforms, be sure to crush that follow button on my other platforms. That'll be greatly appreciated. Anyways, time to get going. Be good to yourselves. Be good to one another. See you guys soon. This is the Pascal Show. Bye.
Pascal, you are now rocking with that dude Pascal. We be going wild.